Hi everyone, and thank you so much for joining me today for this chat. We're going to be talking about talent development and your experiences as artists. A creative producer, and I work for Brighter Sound, who are another talent development charity based in Manchester. I know these artists quite well, but I'm going to ask them all to introduce themselves to the audience at home. So, Lara, shall we start with you?
Hi, I'm Lara Jones. I play the saxophone. Um, I've been working with two bands. Was called J Frisco, and it was called Beyond Albedo for the past few years. And then over the past year, I've been developing my solo set with saxophone and electronics.
Brilliant. Thanks, Lara. How about you, Faye?
Hello, I'm Faye MacCalman. I play saxophone, clarinet, and I sing. My band are called Archipelago, and that's been the bulk of my work, has been writing music for that band, and we've been touring. And I also perform solo, and with Hothouse, I was working on my songwriting for Archipelago.
Brilliant. Hi, Sarah. How about you?
I'm Sarah Hennigan, and I play drums mainly. I'm also in a band with Lara, who's down there on my screen. That's Beyond Albedo. And I also just play drums for various other people, more local acts. And I've also got my own solo project as well, which is quite a new thing, quite exciting. And when I'm not doing that, I also teach a bit, which I really love. So.
Excellent. Oh, brilliant. Thank you. And I suppose we're talking today about talent development, but for the audience at home who might not be as familiar with the term, what we're talking about is artist development really, and the things that make up an artist's journey, and sort of the support that's given to artists to develop their careers in music. So that can be everything from mentoring to sort of image and branding and the social media training and physical performance skills and things like that. So I suppose talent development is quite a hidden part of an artist's journey often. So I just wanted to ask you to talk a bit about your experience of talent development, and sort of particularly you've all been participants on the Hothouse programme, which I was really fortunate to see. So the showcase for that. So Faye, do you want to start us off by talking about your experience on Hothouse?
Yeah, so I worked on a number of different things with Hothouse. I went into it expecting to record a new album with Archipelago, and I ended up not doing that at all. And I actually ended up getting mentored through an Arts Council application to do a tour, which was, I'd never applied for funding on that big a scale before, and I'd never dealt with like that whole process of budgeting and explaining why your work is valid in like an industry way, which is like a bit soul destroying but also really helpful tool, I think. And so that was really cool. That was the main thing I ended up doing. And then I also worked with a mentor on like public speaking and sort of presenting on stage, like finding my own way into how I wanted to do that. And we also had these group workshops together, which were really great. I think getting to know everybody else doing the scheme was one of the best things for me, and sort of feeding off everybody else's work and being inspired by them. And yeah, we had a bunch of the group work we did together. I loved actually. So we talked about like finding your, like, what's the quality about you that makes you unique, and how to plan projects for yourself and how to make stuff that you want to do happen.
So was there anything that like surprised you through that kind of like that exploration of like what makes you unique? Was there anything that you thought, wow?
I think it's like when you, for me personally, it was like I always see other people and think, oh yeah, that's their thing, I can describe what they do really well. But if I was describing my own stuff, it's much harder. So it was kind of like, I think being forced to realistically be like, well, if I have to describe myself, how do I actually do it? And then you've sort of realised that you are, that you do have stuff to talk about, which sounds so basic, but it is like, I don't know, I definitely struggled with that. And I still do struggle with it as well.
Yeah.
But it's like, sort of Angela, who does like the marketing side of things, came in and talked about like, what people would say about you in the pub after, which I found quite helpful as like just a way of stripping out all there's like lots of stuff that you feel like you should say in a way. Like I think especially if you come from any kind of like music college background or whatever, like there's all this sort of stuff that is implied in being a jazz musician, but you don't have to say that. Actually, you can just be you and say what, like, actually the thing that people relate to is who you are. So that's what I took from that.
That's excellent. Thanks, Faye. So Sarah, I was blown away by your solo drum performance at the Hothouse showcase. It was, and everyone at home, you will probably have seen Sarah this afternoon. Well, earlier on today. So Sarah, could you talk to us about a bit about how you found Hothouse and sort of what you explored?
Yeah, it was bloody brilliant, really, wasn't it? So, yeah, I think for me, I can relate to a lot of what Faye was saying. Especially so fortunate to have a group of really nice people, other artists, to kind of be inspired by. I think, yeah, a big part of it for me was definitely the mentoring, or having just people to bounce off, to talk to. That's definitely something that is really valuable for me at the moment. Just gathering ideas, challenging any kind of beliefs that I have about myself or about the music industry or what it means to be an artist, having those challenged and sometimes validated as well. So, you know, Faye, you're talking about how through the process of application funding, you kind of had to validate your worth as an artist, and how important that contribution is. And it's that's definitely something that I still really struggle with. You know, sometimes I feel guilty if I'm like writing music. It's like, how have you got this time to do that? That's such a privilege. And it's like, yeah, but it's also really important to me, and it's important that people are creating. So I think just that big confidence boost was really helpful, along with all the practical stuff as well, obviously, you know, knowing how to write applications, developing your own brand. I think the thing that really stayed with me was the mentoring, and the chats, those really good spontaneous chats that you end up having, maybe with like Helen or Steve, and they just really, would make me think a lot. So yeah.
That support's so important, isn't it? Especially as when you're doing a solo thing as well, because I mean, yeah, as you said, like having people to bounce ideas off, you get that naturally in a band, but when you're out as a solo artist, I imagine it can be quite sort of...
Yeah. I don't know how you guys have been doing it all this time. You know, Lara, you've been working on your solo stuff for a few years, haven't you? And sometimes I just think, how the hell does Lara do it? Like, how does she do it?
Me too.
Having that connection with the intuition and just being like, this is good, I like this, I value it. I don't know how you do that. It's really hard, is what I've discovered. Yeah.
Lara, do you want to talk a bit about your experience?
Sure. Yeah, so Hothouse came along for me at a real pivotal time, to be honest. Sarah's right, I've been working on my solo set for a while. When I graduated from Leeds College of Music about, I think it's 3 years ago coming up this summer. And I had developed some of my set whilst I was at the college in my last year. But it was a set with saxophone and pedal board. And then I started to want to develop that and learn more about electronics. And I've been collecting all these field recordings from train journeys that I was taking. And I really wanted to turn that into my set and turn that into music. And I'd had some, like, I guess, successes, whatever successes, like with my solo stuff. I'd done quite a few gigs with it. And then I hit a block, basically. So I'd done it for about 2 years, and then, or maybe like a year and a half, and I hit a block with it, and I couldn't prioritize that as a thing. I think maybe it's what Sarah's saying there. It felt really hard to put my solo music first, and I was a part of so many different projects and collectives and bands. And I'd really I was losing my focus. I didn't know which thing to put where, and every minute of my time was filled. And as a result, I was just confused, and I didn't. I just put myself under so much pressure. And then I think as a result, I was putting things out there, like I was putting applications out there that maybe they just weren't focused enough. So I was just getting quite a lot of rejections, and I was getting myself really down, basically. And then this came through, and I was just really honest in my application. It was the most honest I've ever been in an application. And I was like, this is how I'm feeling, this is what's going on. And I was really, we had like a chat, like I guess an interview, but it just felt like a really nice chat, to be honest, with Helen and Steve. And they were so kind to me, and it just changed everything, to be honest. It's like they just gave me the confidence and the faith to say, this is worthwhile, you are worthy, and yes, you can do this. And Helen, there was one moment for me which was just will stay with me forever. Helen wrote down all of the things I was doing at the time, so all these different projects, all these different collectives, collaborations, and everything that was happening in my creative life. And she put it all down, and she made me list it out in what I enjoyed doing the most. It was a really hard process to do. I found it really hard to select what I enjoyed. She was like, you've got to say. And so I did. And it was this massive long list. There was so many things on it. It was a massive, like, what's a bigger than A3 paper? A2? A1?
Don't know.
Whatever.
Yeah.
And it was like filled on there, and it was front and back. And then the top three things was my solo stuff. This was kind of like the order we couldn't quite figure out. It was my solo stuff, it was my band J Frisco, my band Beyond Albedo. And I was like, they're the things that I absolutely love, and that I love these people, and that's what I want to pour my energy into. And she then ripped all the rest of the list off in like big, swift, dramatic movement. So from number 4 all the way down, just ripped it off, scrunched it up, and handed me the piece of paper. And I was like holding it, and I got like teary. I was so overwhelmed, because it's like she gave me permission to say, you don't have to do everything right now. She wasn't saying that I couldn't do all of those things. She was like, you have the ability to do that if you want, but you don't have to. And it's like she just took away all that pressure, and she was like, those are your 3 things you're saying you want to do right now and this time. Do those 3 things. And we like mapped it out, like different seasons that I might, you know, like I don't know, maybe January to February I'm gonna have more focus on my solo stuff, and then March to April more focus on a band, or I can't remember exactly what it was at the time. But yeah, it was like mapped it all out, and I've still got this scrunched up bit of paper of all of the other things on it that she was just like, you don't have to do those.
I think it is hard though, isn't it, when you're if you're a younger like musician. I don't know, I like to call myself young still. Like, I mean, it's like if you're like in the first few years after uni or whatever, or deciding that you're going to do music, it's like you just say yes to everything because you just want to get as much experience as you can. And also like we love playing with people because that's how we communicate. So it's really hard, actually, I think, to it's a really good skill to have, to narrow it down like that and be like, oh right, now I've done all. And it doesn't mean that I don't want to play music with everyone. It means that I have to realistically choose what I can do, because then you end off like giving those things more of a chance, don't you, I think?
Yeah, and I think it's so hard because like we're so like we love it so much. I never want to say no ever.
Yeah.
It's just it's everything. I'd give anything to play. So it's really hard to say no. But I think it was the way that she said, you can say no to this right now, because that's, if you're really honest with yourself, these other things aren't your priority right now. These are the things that you said you really want to do. And then she was like, revisit it, like, and it's okay for things to like ebb and flow, and for things to be a priority at like different times. And she was so good. She was like, by saying no to this thing right now doesn't mean you're saying no forever. You know, if you say, actually, I want to step back from this project for a bit, doesn't mean that you're not going to do it in the future. And also, she was like, you don't have to lead every project, you know, like you can give away some like control of it, which I think I can sometimes find quite hard. I want to be involved in like all of the creative processes of it. I enjoy all of the different aspects. But actually, she was like, it's okay for you to be in this band, but just actually play saxophone in it and not do any of the other stuff. I was like, wow, I can do that. That's cool.
That's so fun. I love that.
Yeah. And that she just said that, you know, I could make myself a priority, which I think I just needed to be given, I guess that validation that these guys are talking about too, and just be told that it's okay to want to do that for a while, and if you focus on it, then things will happen, and they did. So
absolutely, because it's that clarity and that focus that like you need to really push a project forward, isn't it? So it's fantastic, really good. And I suppose I just had a question about, like, obviously we're in quite challenging times at the minute for the arts and the live industry, and artists are going to have to adapt and change to these new circumstances we're in. And I just wondered if you had any thoughts about what other talent development organisations and people like MJF and Brighter Sound, if the kind of things that we could be doing to better support artists like yourselves going forward. It's a big question.
That's hard.
I think maybe one thing is more of a focus on developing solo work, actually, because that's realistically the easiest thing to do, isn't it, as opposed to playing for people. So I'd maybe focus on that, and like, I don't know, maybe because there's some projection here, but what's really relevant for me at the moment is how hard I find it to write on my own. You know, I used to do that a lot as a teenager, and it's sort of like I'm reverting back to that time. So it's bringing up a lot of things, a lot of interesting things, but just teaching you more about your intuition and things like that, I think could be really, really helpful for people at the moment. Like, can you like just write a piece of music on your own and just trust that you like it, so it has that integrity, and like, can you finish it on your own as well? That's so hard. So I know for me, like, maybe having a focus on solo things and solo practice, whereby for people who maybe don't have access to the technology, just teaching them tools for writing that don't have to involve like MacBook or really good internet connection. You know,
that would be great.
Not everyone's got that access. Or
that I think that's a real key there, because I think it's a myth that like these live streams are accessible to everybody. You know, it's easy to think like, because everyone's at home, you can do it, but actually that's not true. So much of this music, what some people might not have the technology at all, and some of the music, like, I know for me, I actually did my first live stream gig last night, and I'm totally honest, it didn't work because my set isn't made to be live streamed. It works to be recorded, definitely, but it wasn't made to be a live stream. My electronics and the technology that I've got isn't made to be put through these kinds of mediums, I guess. I had to like reroute the sound of my computer and do all this stuff, and in the end it was just that my internet connection just couldn't handle it. It just was like, you're trying to do too much stuff, and I didn't have enough RAM in my computer, and you know, it just became like a stressful thing. And I think Sarah's got a point there of like, I mean, I really respect people. I think it's good to have an outlet of live, you know, if it works for people, but why not focus on the time which we do have, and instead of trying to replace something, be like, okay, what can we do? We can sit with our instruments, and we can write music, and maybe we can record at home, who knows. But maybe that's like, could be more of a focus instead of the replacement of something that can't be replicated from our homes, because our homes aren't made as, like, venues are made to be
No, yeah, we can't. Most of us live with other people and have neighbours, and
Children.
can't. Yeah. In your case, I don't know. It's just, yeah, I don't think that. And also, there's this weird expectation that people can now just do stuff live. It's like, what? Like, my whole background is performing, and luckily, always having people that do sound, because that's what they do, and then like what I do is play and write music. But I'd love to learn more about it, and I think it would be great if there was some kind of basics, like some basics course that you could do, which was really accessible and really like went right back to the beginning of like, this is how you set up a microphone at home and stuff. Because like I've done that and it took me quite a while, and I find the idea of it quite intimidating. Like when every time I have to record myself at home, I'm like, oh no. But then it's actually quite easy, like is what I've found, which is great. But I have still had to buy stuff to do that, and I think that's also that's the problem. I don't know what like talent development people could do about that other than giving people some money.
Money's always
Yeah. But I think, I don't know, to be honest, having chats like this is great. And what Manchester Jazz Festival have done with the streamed gigs this weekend is amazing. I can't believe that I get to play a gig, and we don't have to do the sound ourselves and the streaming side of it. Like, I'm so excited, actually. I feel really lucky. So I feel like that stuff like that, like the way Manchester Jazz Festival have made it possible for artists to do what they do, but they've taken care of the other aspects of it, which is like, there's something in that that's really amazing. Like if that's some kind of format could be used.
And yeah, like adapting to people's needs as well, because I wasn't able, for me to do the I think the same as both Faye and Sarah, where they're playing it live. Mine's actually like a pre-recorded film, but they were just so great because it was like the initial email of like, can you come and do this thing? And I was like, actually that doesn't work for me with where I'm based, and just it didn't work for me. So they was like, cool, let's find another way for us to showcase your music. And I think it's like just like adapting to like each person's situation, and instead of it being like, oh well, we're all at home so we can all live stream. That's actually not realistic, and like there's so many factors that go into it. So yeah, I think that Manchester just done so great with that, because they're just being kind, like, and thinking about each person's situation.
I suppose with talent development, it's not a one size fits all. Everyone's different, everyone's needs are different, and it's kind of how artists can be supported in the best way to develop their careers. That's really the crux of it, isn't it? Yeah, I think it's been a really great chat, and really interesting to hear about your experiences. I'd just like to finish by saying a big thank you to Stacey for joining us today. And
thank you.
I'm looking forward to, well, some of your music's already been played. Sarah and Lara, yours has been streamed already, but next up is Archipelago. So as Faye said, they're going to be performing live.
Yeah. So that's weird, like me now will be just before me in the future.
Yeah, future year. Yeah, it's
I love it. Well, thank you to you, Lucy.
Thank you, Lucy.
Yeah, see you all really soon, and enjoy the rest of the festival.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Bye.